Today on Expert Showcase, we're going to go behind the episode with Will Schirmer, who's talking about changing life's directions and getting ready for the journey.
Am I supposed to say something?
And welcome to Expert Showcase Behind the Episode. I think we're going to leave that in. It's kind of...
Did
I
miss something? I'm sorry.
Not at all. You just jumped your cue a little bit there, Will.
I'm sorry. What was... I didn't fully hear what you said before.
It's okay.
What was it you said? I'm supposed to say, hi, how are you?
It's all good.
We're just rolling with it, Will. We're just rolling with it. Because this is behind the episode. We don't have to be so formal.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. Well, so see, I did it again. I finally broke my streak mark. It was only like 2 episodes in a row. But so over there, we've got our awesome interviewer for today, Dr. Mark Kosman, and above us we have our great, epic, awesome interview guest. Probably now holds the record for the longest episode, but worthwhile.
Not that long. Oh no.
Will Schirmer. We just got done recording a great episode with him. You're definitely gonna want to stick around to the end of this behind the episode segment to catch it. And Mark, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Sure. So, Will, you and I are going to chat for a couple of minutes here about the book and about what you're doing and what your plans are for promoting the book, because obviously our primary audience are coaches, consultants, people who have a lot of expertise who are looking to better position themselves online and get visibility for themselves. So we'll use you as a bit of a case study, if you don't mind. And while we're doing that, Chris is going to take some notes, and then we'll flip it over to Chris, and he'll give us some feedback and try to wrap it all up for us and making something intelligent out of our babbles.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. So, Will, tell me a little bit about yourself and your background and how you came to write this book that we're going to be talking about.
Well, I am basically, I'm a native New Yorker. I've grown up, I was born and raised in New York City. Moved out here to the Pennsylvania area.
You really don't have the proper accent, so I don't know.
When I was in college and I would go back to New York and I would bring my girlfriend back to New York, I'd get on Woodhaven Boulevard and turn off Myrtle Avenue and 88th Street, and all of a sudden he would come back.
There you go. There you go. There's the New Yorker.
Yeah, but no, I think within the first month of being at college, I lost my accent, and people didn't know that I wanted to leave New York so badly, because I left an atmosphere where you get in a car and drive for 2 hours, it's concrete and traffic lights, and if you like that sort of thing, fine, but I come out here, in half an hour you can drive from the city to a nice wooded area.
Will, in Manhattan, you drive for 2 hours and you've gone about 5 blocks. I mean, certain times a day.
Yeah. So, but anyway, yeah, I've been in this area for, I guess, about 35 years now. When I left college, I went to college for 2 years, went back as an adult with the degree completion program, learned a lot more then than I did when I was young and stupid. And I've been in the data processing industry for 20 years, left that and became an entrepreneur, got into real estate, overlapped that with a career in the insurance industry, let go of the real estate, latched onto the insurance, and so I've been in various forms of insurance in the past 5 years, and it's been quite a journey. I'm married. I've been married for 30 years now. To my lovely wife Wanda. She's from the local area, Skippack area, and we have 2 cats.
So obviously you have changed direction in your life at least several times along the way in your journey here. So is that really where the inspiration for the book comes from?
Well, the fact that I've changed, and mid-centered here, the fact that I've gone through some changes, and I've got a lot more changes I want to go through. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at how do people, and I'm observing how people go about making changes and what they do.
Hence the subtitle, Getting Ready for the Journey.
Yeah. Right, exactly. I remember back in 1990, I had, when I was a tech writer, I went back to New York and I stayed with a cousin who lived in Woodhaven. And, here I was out in New York for 10 years and it would seem like, 50. And everything was different. And, I got up Sunday morning and decided to go to the bakery and buy some pies and cakes and goodies for my host family. And the two ladies behind the counter was a lady and her teenage daughter. And I explained, yeah, I used to live in New York. I used to live over in Glendale, and I moved out. I moved to Pennsylvania, and say, wow, you moved out of New York? I wish I could do that. It's like, well, this is nothing against New York. I mean, New York's a great place to live.
Hey,
but
I love New York.
people who want to make a change in their life, but they say, wow, I wish I could do that. Well, okay. Well, what's stopping you?
Right.
And, I want to remain sensitive to people. Yeah, I went to church later on that day, and other people were saying, wow, you did a great thing moving out of New York because everything's changed in the neighborhood. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not a hero, I just took some steps to make some changes in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And for some people, it is harder. It's harder to get out of. You might be in a bad situation domestically. You might not have the energy or the encouragement in your life to maybe go to school or to travel or to just take a trip outside your own hometown. So remaining sensitive to that on one hand, but trying to encourage people do something different.
Mm-hmm.
Try something. The people who take the risks are the ones who get the highest reward and make the best changes in their life.
Well, and as people will see in the episode to come that we just created together here, that this is where people get stuck sometimes, right? It's just that notion of a wish, and it's like an incomplete thought process, right? They have not really linked that wish to a goal, to a vision, to something that moves them forward. So it just becomes kind of this little kind of loop in their head. Yeah, I wish things were different,
And I think we have too much television and movies because that's what people are like, oh, wow, I just live through the TV and the movie.
Right. I wish things were different. Let's go watch a movie. Or let's watch now let's binge watch, House of Cards for 18 straight hours.
Can you imagine 20 years ago us sitting down and binge watching? I mean, it was like, what a waste of time.
There was no such thing 20 years ago, right? You could go to the movies and maybe do a double or triple feature if you snuck in from one to the next, but that was pushing it, right? So
yeah, I mean, we have come up with amazing and awesome ways to entertain ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
so well. Back to the book. I mean, so this is where the book comes from. Is you've got bigger plans, bigger changes for your life coming up. So tell me a little bit about the plan. Obviously, you're not just going to wish that the book gets found by people. What's the plan to promote the book as it launches? What are you looking to do?
I'm still formulating that plan, but I'm going to basically do some of the traditional methods and some of the non-traditional methods. As I mentioned before, I'm associating with several different networking groups, different types, innovative networking groups. I'm actually going to be promoting it that way. I plan to do some public speaking. I plan to do some blogging. I plan to do the usual marketing through the bookstore channels, book signings, and there's a couple of other things I'm exploring at this point that I haven't kind of nailed down. The last book I wrote was in 2003. That was my first book, and it was a specific niche. It was a church-related book, and it was kind of right on the corner of the change in the book publishing industry. They printed a certain amount of copies, they warehoused them, and they said, well, we'll print the next batch, and by the time they got to that, it became print on demand. Right. So it goes out one copy at a time. So
it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's kind of a neat experience. So it makes it more accessible for people to.
Very much so.
You don't have to buy 1,000 books or in a closet.
You don't have to buy any.
yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So we've got some plans. I'm still formulated, still thinking it through, and I'm open to ideas. And I'm basically going to be talking with people who have launched books and seeing what they've done. Seeing what else is out there.
Yeah, people are often amazed. They with the amount of energy that goes into writing the book, and then they realize, oh, I'm done with the book, but it doesn't magically come flying off shelves. I've actually got to now spend probably as much time as I spent writing the book actually marketing the book and getting people to know about it and be interested in it. So it's something that people are more and more aware of these days, and there's some interesting strategies for doing that. So
yeah, it's not just going to happen. It's sort of, oh, you give it to someone, and here you go. You know, like you think of like the recording industry. You know, you get 4 or 5 guys together in a band and they play their instruments, and it's like, okay, we're done. You know, and then someone else packages it and they get a tour going. You know, no, it's a much different. You know, much different.
Well, and as again, people will hear in the upcoming episode here, as you said. I mean, you go to these networking events and you find how many other people are writing books, and you realize, well, okay, no one's going to discover my book in the ocean of books out there. I've got to help that happen. I've got to get visibility for my book. I've got to show people what's the meaty, interesting stuff that's in this book that is going to whet their appetite and make them want to go, you know, and open it up and invest in it, essentially, because it's more the time investment, right? I mean, books are not expensive, but it's a time investment. If I've got a choice between 1,000 books, why should I read yours? Becomes kind of part of the mission there. So,
exactly.
So Chris, I'm going to segue at this point and flip this over to you and see what you're hearing, and see if you have some thoughts for Will about, you know, how some of this stuff kind of pulls together into getting visibility for a book.
Sure, sounds like a plan. So first of all, great episode. If you guys have made it this far, you definitely want to stick around to the end of the behind the episode and watch Will's episode and listen about his journey and start to figure out, you know, some things about your own about your own journey and where that might help you. You know, I love how your book is going to focus on, you know, both your past and your upcoming changes, and kind of like you said, it's a blueprint. One things I do want to let people know who are watching this is that sometimes when you hear, hey, I'm going to write a book, it's going to be a blueprint, and I'm not really sure if it's going to work or not, but, you know, I think it will, and that sort of thing, you might be a little bit turned off. From talking with Will for a while, here's what I can tell you. It sounds like it's going to be a good blueprint, and while there might be pitfalls, and there's pitfalls in everything, there's pitfalls in the book I wrote. Mark, Mark and I both wrote books that we've gotten to be Amazon bestsellers. You know, there's pitfalls in every book, and could they be better? Sure, but if you can take 1 or 2 things away, it's definitely going to sounds like it's going to be a worthwhile read. Will, I'll give you one quick piece of advice that I picked up from this. It's interesting. You made just an offhanded statement, and I think it would be either an awesome title or a subtitle for a book, which is, wow, I wish I could do that. Well, what's stopping you? Meaning that's really kind of the emphasis of the book. It's, you know, or at least it's the emphasis of a lot of what you talk about changing the journey. But part of the reason is people aren't changing, and they're not going through the journey, and they're letting other things stop them. So even if it doesn't become the focus of this book, you might want to write that down, and it might kind of be this book phase 2, so to speak. I found it interesting. I think, you know, rather than doing what we normally do, which is some other teaching points, I'm going to focus right in on the book promotion and give you a few things that I think will help you from us doing, from both, you know, I'll give you some of mine, and Mark, you know, while I'm talking, if you can think of anything else to add from when you and Charlie promoted your book, which is still getting sold in Japan to dentists, which is amazing. It'll be great. So a couple things you're doing definitely right, which is looking at the traditional methods. I can tell you that the book signings, unless you start now to make relationships with local booksellers, or if you're already signed by a publishing house who's willing to promote you, the book signings are going to be a big challenge. I know it's something that I literally had a bookstore within 5 minutes of my house that, you know, I pretty much had to beg to come in and do a signing for my book. They finally relented, and it wasn't like a traditional, hey, we're going to promote it out the wazoo. They pretty much took a look at me and said, well, you're going to promote this, aren't you? So it was a very interesting thing, because when we agreed to it, I thought they were going to do the promotion and they were going to have, you know, ask people to come in, and it wasn't until like the day before I found out that they didn't do any of that and that they were expecting me to do it. So of course only like, you know, a couple of people showed up, and they happened to be there the day before for a different networking group. Well, wow, this is like, it might be fun. So one thing is make relationships with the booksellers that you're going to be in. Number 2 is, if it's going to be faith-based, which I know your previous one was, there are a lot of faith-based booksellers in this area. At least there were the last time I checked, so it'd be good to reach out to them and get to know them. Number 3, one of the things that a lot of people are doing is starting crowdfunding campaigns nowadays. If you can look at your book and if it can help people avoid pain, in other words, if it can help a high school senior avoid pain and avoid some of the detours that they might take in life, one of the things you can do is write like a GoFundMe or a Pub Slush or a Kickstarter campaign or a crowdfunding campaign, and you put it in those terms. Say, look, I'm doing this, and list out what you're going to do. You're going to go to schools and talk. You're going to do all of this. So you kind of you basically create the energy for the book. You create the sales for the book by also giving stuff away. So giving your time away, giving what have you, to local schools, to local charities. And a lot of people, if done right, a lot of people like to support stuff like that. The other thing that, number 4 would be blogging. Like you said, I would start now. Even if the book's not going to come out till the end of the year, I would start now blogging about the book and getting out there. And number 5, which is number 1 in our hearts, is video. Starting to create videos to support the book, and then eventually, as you move through the book, do video summaries of the chapters and get them out there. I know I had a lot of success with my book, The Secret Blueprint to More. I went out and did a whole video series, and it was a 1 to 2 minute summary of each chapter just to get out there, to get on YouTube, to make sure and to get more to get more energy and more stuff behind the book. So those would be my top 5. Mark, what else would you have to add from the success you had with your book?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's lots of options and layers. I mean, in part, it's no different than anything else that you and I talk about, Chris, which is part of it is really knowing who your ideal client is. In this case, who's my ideal reader? I mean, if you know for whom am I writing this book, and you can get crystal clear about who your intended audience is and start really mapping that out in terms of, are these people that hang out on social media? Is it more faith-based, and how can I get access to that community essentially, and really start getting your mind right about where the audience is that you can envision reading this book that you're creating. Then it starts to shape the messaging that you're going to put around the book. It may actually help shape the book as well as you're writing it, of course, but it also starts to shape where I'm going to promote it, how I'm going to promote it, what kind of language am I going to use to promote it, the what's in it for you of, as I said before, I mean, any book is kind of an investment, and it's not a financial investment, obviously. I mean, a book is not going to break anybody's bank, essentially, but it is an emotional and a time commitment that you have to basically sell people on, and so you have to show them the value. Again, that's no different than any other kind of marketing. Is how can I show you that this is worth that investment, not only of the 10 to 15 bucks that you're going to pay for the book, but the 5 to 10 hours that you're going to spend reading the book, and that's the bigger commitment. We were joking about binge watching a show, but it's the equivalent when you sit down with a good book. I mean, you're going to kind of get down there and do that. So yeah, and the things that Chris is saying are true. Although I really didn't do any of those kind of things for our book. I mean, we were really much more promoting it online and promoting it to the specific people that we wanted to get it to. We didn't do book signings or anything like that because we weren't trying to reach a mass audience or anything like that. So it was much more targeted. And the other thing is to find people who are already promoting books that are synergistic to yours, and that becomes a campaign unto itself to sort of think, who's out there publishing in this area that might even want to blurb my book, because even though they may not know who I am, they look at your book jacket as extra promotional space for their book if they actually have a complimentary message kind of thing. And you'd be surprised. You can actually get some pretty big name authors to blurb your book if you show them the value of the fact that, hey, we share the same audience, and there's no cost to you, obviously, to get a little extra juice by being on my book cover. Would you be open to doing that? So, just a thought.
Right. Yeah, great. So great thoughts, Mark. And yeah, I mean, I think that the key there of everything was the targeted marketing and the targeted visibility. So it's getting in front of the right people. Getting in front of the right people and getting them to hear the right words so they can make the right action, which is to buy to buy the book, because while two wrongs don't make it right, as many rights as you can throw together make it right. Right.
Right.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. I tell you, I have to admit that earlier when you guys were talking about Wish, all I could think about was when you guys said Wish. All I could think about was the analyze this or analyze that, whichever one where Robert De Niro was sitting there going, anger is like a blocked wish, and then he like kind of freaks out and shoots the pillow. So it was kind of. So anyway, thanks for my comment for the day.
Hello.
Yeah. So Will, any questions? We've gone through a lot. We have your 3 questions to get to. Before we move into those 3 questions about marketing, any quick questions you have on what you just heard?
No, I didn't. No questions at this point. I had something else I was gonna share. I don't know if we were into the sharing point, ready to getting ready to do this interview. A lot of people when they finish a book and they present a book to the audience, they've gone through, like, either they've been in a really good situation in life, and then they've gone into a valley, a real hard time, a struggle, a low point in life, and then they've come back out of it again, and they're kind of back on top, or they're at a greater place than they were, before they went in the valley, and that's the point when they're basically presenting their book or their talk, and whatever it is they want to share. At this point, for me right now, as I sit here, I'm in the valley, in many areas in life, emotionally, financially, career-wise, there's a lot of things that are happening right now. Even if I described you all what went on today, but it helps me because I can read from the experiences I'm having, but it's a different perspective. I don't know if I'll be out of the valley when this book is ready to market. Hopefully I will. Maybe I won't. But that's kind of I see that being a different perspective than most authors that I've encountered, especially ones I've met lately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So before I get to the 3 questions, just a quick comment on that. That was awesome for sharing, and you're right. And that's one of the things that's going to make your book a success, because what I found, it's funny, Mark, we interviewed a couple of people recently where episodes will be coming up later on where they kind of did something similar, and it really endeared people to them. And as you're going, if you're going through it at that point, and sharing what you're going through, a lot of times that endears you to your potential reader much more than just being the hero afterwards. So so that's great. Let's go ahead and get to your 3 questions real quick, because I think these will benefit you and everybody else, and we're going to kind of rapid fire through these because I think they can be answered fairly quickly. So the first one is, what equipment is most commonly used for videos these days, like cell phone cameras, etc. And are there dedicated video cameras? Well, the good news is, yep, there's still dedicated video cameras. In fact, Mark and I both use these little Sony handy cams. So the good news is that if you want something that's an on-the-go solution that is a little bit better than a cell phone camera, you can still get a handy cam that's digital. They run a few $100. The majority of people, what they do for on-the-go video is they use their cell phone.
Which I gotta say, these cell phone cameras are freaking awesome these days. So
yep. Yeah. So I would say the entry level is start off with the cell phone camera. People will realize it, and that's okay. You're not looking for professional quality. You're not looking for professional quality video. The next step up is the webcams that you're using now, when you can be in one location. And the beautiful part is, for approximately $100, you can pick up an HD quality webcam, even with a stereo microphone. when you want to get into something bigger, sure, then you can go to the pro level and that sort of thing. But as far as common uses, it's a cell phone, and then the next step up is the webcam.
And it's interesting, as I just set this up minutes before we started here, even with the glitches and the problems and it rebooting my system, overall, it's so much easier than, say, 10, 15 years ago, setting equipment up. And we just froze.
Well, yeah, there are issues with trying to pump video through the internet, but
yeah. I'm seeing still pictures. Are you guys seeing movement?
Well, we're moving, but you froze a little bit there. But just at the moment that you were saying how easy it was to set up and how it crashed your system, it might be crashing your system again.
Yeah.
So Will, it's okay. You can still hear us. We're going to continue here at this point. We'll see if your camera
will change.
we'll see if your camera comes back, and we'll figure out what we're going to do then later. The good news is partly you answered the second question yourself, which is, can a person do a decent video with a laptop and software and a camera that's attached to it? All the videos we do for Expert Showcase, all the videos we do for VideoContent.Agency clients are laptop and webcam, right, Mark?
Pretty much. I mean, there are options, but yeah, I mean, you can do it this way. Every now and then you'll run into some internet god problems where we have to kind of sacrifice a camera and spread its ashes onto the laptop, and then we appease things. But other than that, it can work very, very well to just use webcams, and it allows you to be virtual and create video with anyone anywhere in the world. So
exactly. Now I will ask, Will, are you still there?
I'm still here.
Okay, cool.
It's all right. As long as you can hear us, we've got your still image, right there. You're still with us, and you're just not moving much.
I'm actually dancing in the background here.
There you go. Be careful, because the camera will come back at some point at the most inopportune moment.
Yes,
Let me
exactly.
put my shirt on.
Yeah, that's right. That's
exactly.
Right. Don't get too comfortable.
So then you've got your third question, was how does a professional video developer like yourself work with clients? You start out with video. Do you train people? Do you train people on how to do a proper video? Does your service take a mediocre client video and breathe new life into them? So it's a very interesting question. So first of all, sure, we love to work with people and help them through the beginning phase. In fact, a lot of our clients, we had especially when we started off, a lot of our clients were also brand new, and we were able to coach them through and watch them progress from very timid and very, some of them timid, and some of them were a little hesitant to talk about their topic and a little hesitant to be on camera, and eventually they became, very, very good at it. So, yep, that's kind of one of the things we do when we consult with people.
As you see, I had that problem. I could barely, get on camera. I'm pretty shy.
Exactly. So the second one's a little more involved, so I'm going to make it a really short answer. As far as taking a mediocre client video and breathe new life into it, and I kind of look away and go, if it was shot mediocre, you could spend hours and hours and thousands of dollars, and I know
way easier to create a new one, right?
And that's what I was going to say is, I know every day, in fact, I just found out about there's some awesome open source tools that are now out there that even let you do multi-camera, and it was kind of amazing what I've seen over the last couple of days, which I'm sure our audience probably knew about, but I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. The whole point is, I know that we're getting to a point where, yes, you can do a lot with video editors to breathe new life into an old video, but as Mark just said, the best way to do it is sit down and recut it. Even if it's an hour-long video, the only...
I mean, absolutely. Chris, I mean, because, to re-speak something for an hour is obviously less energy than to re-edit something for 10 hours, which it can, easily take to try to clean up something that's got a lot of problems. So it's just not worth it. I mean, I mean, if it's some archival footage of your conversation with Martin Luther King, I mean, okay, we're going to clean it up and make it work. But if it's your content and your brain is still functioning, then we flip on a new camera and create a new version.
and here becomes the challenge. There's only one area that is a little iffy on that, and that's a stage performance. In other words, if you have an old stage performance, the challenge there is that, you know, sure, you could spend a lot of time and money on that, on redoing, so to speak, that stage performance. But are you really being true and authentic to your audience then? If you're trying to take something that was shot 5 years ago and make it look like it was shot yesterday, is that really being true and authentic to your audience? So that's pretty much the short version of that. Kind of makes sense?
Yeah, it was very educational. It got me, you know, at least, you know, informed about when I get involved in the video process. You know, and I'm looking to do some videos for my blogs, and you know, looking to, as this, you know, whole phenomenon grows, and you know, and I'm out there promoting the book. There's going to be some, you know, some speaking engagements I may want to have videoed. There may be some deliberate videos I want to make to send to people. So you know, that's when I can see us collaborating in the future and working on some ideas like this. And you know, we've gone, you know, very far from the days with the humongous cameras and the big machines, and it used to cost thousands of dollars to buy a tape, and you know, booking someone to come with this big, you know, carrying case and wheeling trays and all this stuff. And you know, now it's not as cumbersome, and now it's easy to do.
Not at all, and I'm sure Chris will agree with what I'm about to say, which is that to me it's so easy at this point, and the equipment is accessible and affordable, that my advice to anybody is record anytime you're in front of an audience, or in front of, you know, even a book signing, or anywhere where you're going to be speaking to someone. Capture it, because you can throw it away. I mean, you know, it's not like you're actually shooting film that costs you money. They're ones and zeros on a you know, a piece of memory, you know, capture device. And if it's no good, or the lighting's bad, or you know, it's not to your liking, you hit delete. If you capture some golden moments that you can pull out, you can then use that in something that you edit together. So that raw material is useful. If it's not, you know, you've wasted nothing by capturing it, or by having somebody else capture it. So.
Yep, exactly. So Mark, why don't you wrap us up? Mark and Will, why don't you wrap us up with some final thoughts? I'll tell people what they need to do next, and then we'll roll the tape.
Right. Well, we're going to, you know, be showing your episode in just a second, Will. You know, our conversation from before. Before we get there, any closing thoughts that you have for us, or for the world of coaching and consulting folks out here who are, you know, hopefully learning something here from our conversation?
Well, I tell you, I would say, you know, you guys are part of a community that I see emerging, of, you know, coaching and helping, and you know, bringing about information, and I guess encouragement would be kind of a blanketed term. What you're doing and what the people that we're associating with are doing are not only helping people improve their businesses, but helping people improve their lives, and that's what I want to be part of in that community. And I look forward to what, you know, what all of us are going to be doing in the next 5 years, 10 years, and the impact we're going to be making on society and our world, starting with the world where we live, and who knows how far out we're going to go.
Excellent. Well, we're going to see your words of wisdom in just a moment. Chris, I know you have some closing thoughts for us all before we get there.
Yeah, exactly. So first of all, thanks for sticking around, everybody. We know, hey, my drone done a little more than normal, so you might need a little extra monster. Contact us. We're looking for a sponsorship, man, or yeah, Coke, either one. Monster, yeah, there you go, product placement. Are we gonna get this video pulled once we've done that? Who knows? We'll find out. But anyway,
we just gave it away for free, Chris. I mean, you know,
that's true. So
you got to get the money up front for the placement ads.
That's true. Yeah. So stick around and watch the episode we created with Will on changing life's direction. getting ready for the journey, and you're going to find a lot of helpful and useful info. For those coaches and consultants out there who realize that being a guest on Expert Showcase is going to give them a great piece of video content marketing material that they can use, something that's valued at over $375 that we'll give you for free for just being a guest on the show, head over to expertshowcase.com and check out, hit the big apply button. Check out, look at that big yellow apply button. Check it out. It's real nice. It's big. It's yellow. Punch it, send us your information, we'll take a look at it, and we'll get in contact with you and let you know if you're a good fit. And then if you are, we'll have you on as a guest on Expert Showcase. And finally, if you're a coach or consultant who's looking at using video to create visibility, credibility, and set yourself apart as an authority, or just looking to do branded video and realize that the concept of branded video is what's going to set you apart from every other coach and consultant in your particular niche, go to VideoContent.Agency, check around a little bit, see what we have to offer, then get in contact with us. Let's see if we're a good fit to work together. Let's talk about what your goals are and if video is the right thing to marry up and to help you meet those goals. And now, without any further ado, I'm gonna roll the tape.
Today on Expert Showcase, we have Will Schirmer joining us, talking about changing life's direction, getting ready for the journey. Will Schirmer, welcome to Expert Showcase. We're so happy to have you join us today and be our guest expert. How are you doing today?
Good, Mark. Glad to be here. Glad to be talking with you again.
Excellent. Well, let's get people oriented a little bit, Will. So tell me just kind of a little overview of what we're going to be talking about today.
Well, what I'm doing is I'm putting together a book. It's actually my second book. And this book has basically the topic that it's dealing with is making some changes in your life, partially based on some experiences that I have and based on some experiences other people have. And I'm going over different things that I've observed, different things I've yet to do myself. So it's kind of halfway my own roadmap, so to speak, into what I need to actually sit down and do to make some changes. And I've identified people along the way, positive people, negative people, and have seen how those people have had an impact on my life. I've seen how different mindsets have had an impact on my life. I've seen people who think in different directions, either very positively, very negatively, and how I've been thinking negatively and positively, and how that's affected my life. And so I'm trying to put that all together and share that. And I'm a stickler for organization, so I've got things organized in different sections so that people can look at one thing at a time and focus on that one section.
And speaking of organization, so when we were prepping for today, we're going to really focus in on three things. And so let me just do a quick rundown of those three things. So we're going to talk about the importance of having a vision for your life. We're going to talk a little bit about looking towards something higher than yourself, and then looking at that power of being positive, essentially, and do that. So let's start from the top there, Will. Tell me a little bit about the concept of having a vision for your life and how that plays out for you and in this book.
Well, having a vision is I think, very key to to basically understanding what it is you want to do, both in the long term and on a daily basis. And what I did was identified the different levels of, I don't want to say different levels of vision, but different levels of thinking. Many of us have a wish. We wish something would happen to us.
Right.
I wish I would get $1 million. Well, that's nice.
Right.
I could just sit there and wish it all day long. It ain't going to happen. No one's going to knock on the door.
If only, right? If only it were as easy as wishing, right?
Right. So wishing basically accomplishes nothing. Okay. Beyond that, you can have a dream. I'm going to dream that I'm going to get $1 million. Well, that's great. You can sit there and think about it and think about, wow, I'm going to get all this money, and I'm going to spend it on these different things, and I'm going to make my life different, and look at all I can do if this happens to me, if I get this job, if I if I'm younger and then marry this person, if I go on this trip, if I get this car, whatever, you know.
So in the dreaming phase, you're kind of throwing in some more detail, right? There's a little bit more,
right.
a little bit more fleshing in and painting out
Right.
some of the scenery that would go with the wish.
Right, but there's still no action in it. There might be some action in it, but there's not an element of attainability in it.
Okay.
When you sit down and think of a vision, you think of something that you want to do that's realistic and attainable, and that's something that you have a plan for. You know, to get to this vision, you know, I want to lose weight in a year. I want to lose 50 pounds in a year. So you sit down and you have steps along the way, how you get through to this vision. For example, you know, I want to be a doctor, so I've got to go to medical school for 6 years. So you sit down and you go over all those different steps. It basically gives you purpose, it gives you control, gives you reasons for long-range planning, gives you reasons for your short-range planning, and it basically gives you physical energy, emotional energy, and it's you know, it's a more realistic way of living. People who don't have a vision, who just get up and they go to work and they, you know, they're not as happy. They don't live as long.
It's a routine, and you kind of rinse and repeat, right?
Yeah, pretty much. You know, we have goals, and goals are, you know, it's good to have a goal. That's milestones along the way with our vision. And the other two words that I talk about here that I think are critical is when you hear somebody say that they're looking at their calling in life. That's when you really truly believe you've found what it is that you should be doing in life. You know, what you're talented in, what you think you can contribute to society and to other people in life, and you're going to set your visions and your goals on that calling, and basically that's what you're going to do when you get up in the morning. That's what you're going to eat, breathe, and do for your life. So that's your calling. Same as mission too. I mean, that's basically where you're looking. You know, my mission is to do this and accomplish. You know, I'm going to build a hospital. You know, in a foreign country. So that's my mission. Yeah. So it's going to take me 6 years to raise the funds, and 2 years to get the contractors out there, and 5 years to work with the people. So you have this mission and this plan. You bring your vision to it. You basically, you know, your calling is to help people, and you know, you set your goals for different days, and that's how that all works together. And it's certainly
so you're going from that the totally vague end of the spectrum of, you know, I wish, all the way to, and when you get to this sense of mission, this sense of calling, you know, it sounds like a big part of it is that at that stage you're kind of being pulled forward instead of kind of being pushed from behind almost.
Exactly.
I hear you describe
well,
it.
Actually, you don't really need, at that point, you don't really need people to push you. You know, when you're active,
right, you're attracted towards this vision of where you're getting to, and this sense of meaning in what you're doing.
Yeah, you'll probably need to have people slow you down, and you probably will push them out of the way. You know, because I know people who are pretty much on the go, and they need to slow down, and you know, that could be bad for you too. But but it's better to have that problem than to be sitting there saying, I wish I had $1 million.
Yeah, exactly. Doesn't tend to manifest that way. So, well, let's talk about your next point, which is that, you know, this notion of having something bigger than yourself, something you know, something larger than just I want $1 million because it would make me feel good.
Yeah. Well, when we look at life, a lot of people make plans. And I don't want to say sometimes we can get selfish or we can think of ourselves constantly, but if we look at just ourselves, and I've heard somebody use the term navel gazing, you know, like staring at your own belly button. It's like, oh, what do I see? I don't see anything. You know, when you narrow your focus and just look at the things that are within your own capacity and the things that you have the ability to do and you have the capacity to do, you really don't have that broad of a vision. You really don't have that many goals.
Sure.
Your goal might be, well, I'm going to get up in the morning and have a cup of coffee, and you know, maybe I'll go to work, or maybe I won't, and you know, I'll come home and watch some TV, and yeah, maybe I'll take the trash out and and go to a movie, or I come home, go to sleep. But you kind of limit what you're doing. If you look at something bigger than yourself, if you have a goal, first of all, for me, looking beyond to a higher power, my belief in God is very important to me. And people have all different views of all different beliefs in their higher powers, and different things that they want to look at and think about. My belief in God forces me to read more scriptures, for example. Those are something bigger than I am. Other people wrote them. Other people have studied them. It forces me to go. It doesn't force me, but because of that, I go to a church and I meet other people who have had bigger experiences than I have.
Right. It opens you to something larger, of course.
Right. If you want to become, let's say you want to become a doctor, well, you're not just going to say, okay, I'm going to go and work among sick people and I'll figure this thing out and we'll get this thing. And
I'll figure out how to remove that appendix eventually.
Yeah. I mean, that's why they call it practice, right?
Exactly.
Eventually it'll be perfect. No, you go to school. You start with college. You go to, grad school. You go to medical school.
Right.
You learn.
Let you practice on cadavers that are, so that you don't kill them. Yes.
They don't say ouch when you're,
right.
the wrong way. But you learn from other people. You learn from other things other than yourself. I mean, even taking a vacation. We have some friends who they're retired, but even before they retired, they like to take vacations. Whenever they come see us, instead of, okay, let's get together and see how you're doing, it's like, no, we want to go somewhere. Get some touristy thing going. Let's go to Valley Forge Park. Let's go to Philly. Let's go to Doylestown. Let's go to, they're constantly out there experiencing different things, learning, looking at things bigger than ourselves, looking at things bigger than who we are. That ties into education. If we keep educating ourselves, if we keep current on what's going on, every field that you hear about where they have professionals, of course, the medical field, you have to keep educated, real estate, insurance,
right,
auto mechanics today.
Continuing education, absolutely. It's required.
Yeah. Right. If you learn something, I mean, years ago it was like I graduated from high school, maybe I graduated from college. That's it. I'm going to go out and work now. Now it's a whole different ballgame. Now you have to constantly keep learning. Right. That's the way it is in everything, no matter what it is you're doing. And to recognize that, I might be good in something, but there might be more that I could learn. Maybe I can contribute and someone else can learn from my experience, but there might be more that I can learn too. So to open yourself up to something bigger than yourself, higher than yourself, to educate yourself more, and here, even as far as setting your goals and your visions. If your vision is not just for yourself, I want to make $1 million. It's like, no, I want to do something that's going to help 1,000 people build a hospital or be a doctor or, build a railroad or build software or whatever it is that you want to do. If your intention is to work with something or do something that's going to be for the greater good, then your lifespan, what you your purpose in living, your just your whole comfort level and everything is much broader and more fulfilling than okay, I got my stuff and I'm doing this for me, and gee, am I happy now? You see the happiness you bring to other people, and that's part of that whole concept.
Yeah,
absolutely. You're not staring at yourself and doing the navel gazing, and
It's the difference between feeling fulfilled and feeling full of yourself, right?
Yeah, you got it.
Because if your world is small and enclosed and you're navel gazing, then you are literally full of yourself.
Yep.
As opposed to opening yourself to looking outward and expanding and acquiring more knowledge, doing things for the benefit of others. It's clearly much larger and much broader.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that probably is a decent segue to your third point, which is I think one of the things about being positive is that it allows you to do that. It allows you to open up to having reasons why you're doing what you're doing. So, but tell me a little bit more about what you mean by the importance of positivity.
Well, I'm going to go to like two different subjects, which is actually maybe three different chapters in the book here. What is addressed among three different chapters. First of all, you need to be positive, and when people hear me say this, they're going to say, "You're saying that, Mr. Negative." I think genetically I am negative, and with my environment, I'm not going to write a book on my life story, but if you heard some of the experiences I've gone through, you would say, how could you actually be so positive? If just recently I found out, by the way, through some counseling, here again, a higher power, something higher than me, reasons for the way I react to things and the way I encounter things in life. I've been affected from things that happened to me way in the past. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that was very enlightening to me. And it's brought to my knowledge that I have to, in my quest to be positive, I have to work at things where something, let's say, Mark, your boss calls you into a meeting and closes the door. Might not be a big thing for you. Or somebody like myself, it's like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? The world's coming to an end. I'm going to get fired, and So little
catastrophe is
Yeah, certain things, so for me, I've got to work hard and say, okay, well, this is just normal business practice, calm down, it's not the end of the world. So in doing so, yes, for some of us, it's a little bit more hard work to be positive, but, this is something that pays off in the long run.
Right.
And part of being positive is hanging around positive people. And I mean, we've heard this so many times over and over again, but it's amazing. I am in situations, even this week, for example, I've been to networking groups. I've been to, can I mention names of organizations? Or
if you wish.
I've been to competitions for Toastmasters, which I'm a member of one of the local chapters of that. I've been dealing with people, and it's amazing when I go to different networking groups and different entrepreneur groups and Toastmasters, I keep running into other people writing books, and it's like, I'm still, I still got to work on mine. I still got to get mine out, and everyone else has got to, so I got a pile of everyone else's book here.
Right.
And it's like, I got to get mine going,
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of encourages me. I'm looking at that as a positive thing.
It's inspiration, right?
Yeah. Instead of,
if they can do it, I can do it.
It's like, hey, everyone else is doing so, get going,
Mm-hmm.
So it's amazing seeing the thinking. And that's where I met you and Chris at one of those meetings.
That's right.
Business accelerating meetings where you get people together who are thinking outside the box and who are thinking ways of communicating, ways of developing products and services, and another common thread is ways of helping other people, not just out there, I'm going to make a buck by doing this, but
Mm-hmm.
What have I got that's a unique service or product that's going to help people? Just you guys doing this right here, is a way of helping.
Well, and again, you're back to that looking for something larger than yourself, and the positivity, is what attracts to doing that and to opening up and to figuring out that sense of vision and mission. So.
Yeah. So, and on the other hand, too, there have been circumstances this week where I've been hanging around negative people.
Mm-hmm.
Who have just not been the most pleasant or made my life the most pleasant. Even today was an example of that. And you have to deal with that. With the positive people, you're encouraged by that. You feed off of that. You try to give back to that. You try to get in that environment. When you're with negative people, well, you could feed off of that. You could be influenced by that, and you could just get really frustrated where you want to.
It's very easy, right? I mean, they always seem to be around you, right?
Right. But, you've got to learn to basically cocoon yourself around that, and I use that term as, trying to insulate yourself
Mm-hmm.
From that. I mean, and it's hard for me to do that. I'm not the most patient person, but there's many different ways to address that. Now, there's people who are sympathetic to your situation. You may not be able to just, in some circumstances, you can walk away from a negative person. We're not associated with a negative person.
Right.
If they're
not always though, right?
Or a boss or a business partner or somebody you deal with on a regular basis, a doctor that you don't want to change, you've got to deal with them. The way I look at it is this: there's different ways that I handle it. And one way I look at it, I'm still kind of developing whether this is effective or not, is in some ways I feel like, well, they're using me to get their goals done, and it's like, you know what? I'm going to turn around. I'm using them to get things done for me. Now, the negative people are not always going to be there in my life. After a while, they're going to be gone. You're going to get rid of them somehow. But in the meantime, you've got a goal. You've got a vision. And where you are right now, there's a step that you have to take to get there. So this step, no matter whether it's a week or 2 years, if it's a job or school or something that's a certain amount of time, you're in this step, you're in this phase. If this person's giving you a hard time, you're just basically, they're there for your convenience. They're there for your growth.
Well, getting through that person may be one of your steps, right? I mean, is overcoming that negativity and not letting it drag you down. You can almost make the argument that that it builds your strength. It builds your commitment to the vision that you're trying to pursue.
Yeah.
That if it were too easy, then we wouldn't feel it was quite so meaningful. If everyone was just your cheerleader, then you might actually not even feel how valuable it is. Whereas when you're overcoming these obstacles, there's more value to it.
Yeah, and sometimes it requires some restraint, which is maturity and professionalism. Sometimes that restraint is confused with enabling a person to participate in their bad behavior, and then we have to have a confrontation and talk about boundaries. But here again, that's part of the learning process, and eventually that person is out of there.
I hear you.
So anyway, positive people. The more you hang around positive people, the more positive you can be, the more you can contribute and think on a positive level. Positive people attract other people.
Right. Well, let's face it. Positive people are attractive. We're attracted to that positivity. Hopefully much more so than the negativity.
Yeah. So, I like sitting and listening to somebody who's very happy and positive and has something bright to say and has
inspiring,
something,
right? It's inspiration.
Yeah. I can sit there and listen to that all day long,
Right.
Instead, I listen to somebody else, But
Yeah, well, unfortunately, there is that too, right? The airwaves are full of negativity as well. And you have to watch what you're tuning into, because as somebody once said to me, you are what you eat, and that includes the media that you consume. Yeah. So you got to be careful what you consume, because it does influence you. So
it's a funny thing you brought that up, because that's another thing I talk about too. Is what we listen to, what we watch on TV,
sure.
What we read on the internet.
It's what we consume, right?
Yeah, it affects our head. We are in information overload right now. I believe we as a nation are teaching ourselves ADD.
That's very true.
It's crazy. It's just so much coming at us. We have a harder time, more than any other generation, of putting the brakes on the stuff coming at us. I mean, we used to be able to seek out.
Well, hold that thought. I got to tweet this out. I got to answer this text, and I got to check my Facebook right now while you're talking. All right. So you don't mind if I kind of multitask here, right?
Yeah. See, that seems to be the the norm. When it's funny, because whenever I give a presentation lately, or I see someone give a presentation, years ago, 10 years ago, when I started giving presentations, I used to say to people. I say, you know what? Turn off your cell phones. Because if your cell phone goes off while I'm talking, here's the deal. I get to talk to that person. So one time that happened, I actually talked to them. Hello, yes. Well, Joe can't come to the phone right now because he's listening to a speaker. Who is it? It's me. So, but now the norm is And I was getting frustrated for a while because the people are like, they have their head down and
they're all looking at their little screens, you know.
The norm is everyone's texting and everyone's checking email, and I find myself doing it. I got to stop, you know. It
is addictive.
Yeah, well, and you've got to adapt to this, and you know, it's weird to see people who do speaking engagements and people who present information. They've got to adapt to this, and it's a shame.
They do. They got to deal with it. Yeah.
As a society, have adapted to that. We're doing 2 or 3 things at the same time.
Yep. It's. I think you're right. We are definitely training ourselves to have a taste of ADD. Well, I'm looking forward to this book. It sounds interesting. So we've been talking with Will Schirmer about changing life's directions and kind of getting ready for the journey. And just to recap, we've been focusing on 3 things here. We've been talking about the importance of having a vision for your life and not just wishing. We've been talking about really tapping into something bigger than yourself and the impact that has on you. And then really using positive energy, being attracted to positive people, getting that positivity to move you forward, and being careful about surrounding yourself with negative people who can drag you down. So, Will, I hope you don't mind. I'll tell people how to get in touch with you and really be ready for the book, which is not quite released yet, but it's coming soon. So you want to look for this book. It's coming towards the end of the year. We're going to put your information up on screen here, Will. So you can get in touch with Will by email, will@willschirmer.com. And the website is under construction right now, but there's parts of it there. So, you know, in June of 2015, it should be all up and ready and rocking and rolling. And that's at willschirmer.com, right?
Yep.
Fingers crossed, right? So get connected to Will. His book is coming out. I'm sure he'll be willing to connect with you if you send him an email, and get on his list. He'll notify you when the book is released. Right?
Yep. Definitely. Right. I'd like to keep a dialogue going with people. Until it does come out. I'm going to look for ways to incorporate blogs into it somehow, and in the pre-release of the book.
Excellent.
And even afterwards too.
Sounds like a plan.
I'd like to keep in contact with the community that is interested in what I've got to offer and what I've got to encourage.
Absolutely. So there you have it. Get in touch with Will Schirmer. Get connected with him. Will, it's been great having you as our guest today on Expert Showcase. So I look forward to your book launch.
Yeah, it's great to be here. It's been fun.
And another great Expert Showcase episode. Chris, what should people do right now?
Yeah, if you're watching this and you're a coach or consultant, imagine what it would do for you and your business if you were a guest on Experts Showcase. And here's the best part. Other than possibly increasing your business, an appearance on Experts Showcase is free. We give you a copy of your episode so you can use as marketing collateral, and we give you a coaching session to go along with it to tell you how you can best market your episode and other tips and tricks about your business. So what you want to do is head on over to expertshowcase.com, click on the big yellow apply button, and apply to be our next featured guest on the Expert Showcase. Now, if you're a coach or consultant and you've already imagined what having your own internet talk show will do for you, then we want you to head to VideoContent.Agency and check us out, check our packages out, and get in contact with us. Let's see if we're a good fit, and let's see if we're the ones to produce you and make you the next star and have your own internet talk show. And until next time, Mark, anything else?
I couldn't have said it any better, so just do what he said.